Well, you're absolutely right. And now we hear Israel primed for war on Iran. Netanyahu deputy says, that's Reuters. Russia warns U.S. against unilateral Iran sanctions, which Ron Paul has said is an act of war. Just so much is going on. Separately, I want to get into the war situation in a minute and then go to calls because, again, a war, as we know, always comes in the middle of one of their takeovers because it makes everybody rally around the government even though they're raping them. This is from the Daily Paul and other publications. It says, video update from Dr. Paul. Sanders sold out on audit the Fed. Amendment, here's a transcript of it. Bernie Sanders has sold out and has sided with Chris Dodd to gut the audit the Fed in the Senate. His compromise is what the administration and banking interests want. They'll allow the TARP and the TALF to be audited, but no transparency or monetary policy decisions, discount window operations, or agreement with foreign central banks. We need to take action to stop this. That's Ron Paul 2 days ago. I just wanted to go back over that. So just absolute disgusting behavior going on in the Congress. I mean, look, it's us or them. Either we get these banks out of our lives and under control, or they're going to take everything over. And we now see that, and they're laughing at us, saying the good times are over. Ha, ha, ha. It's totally sickening. Let's go to some calls for Bob Chapman. Jim in Oregon, you're on the air.
Great job, Alex. What one thing can the American people do to agitate, or what one policy should they agitate for to try and stop these bankers?
Bob?
Well, I think you can go to your congressman and let them know you know what they're doing in siding with the bankers and, voting TARP in and things like that. But the best way is to kick them all out of Congress in the next election. And, there's probably half the House seats that belong to people who are getting paid off by the banking and Wall Street cabal. They're up for grabs easy. But, if you work hard at it and you let the people know, we could probably get new people. Doesn't matter who they are. Hopefully they're conservative, whatever party they're in. We got to get them in there because even if they want to buy them off, it's going to cost them a lot of money. And it's going to take them at least a year to be able to force them one way or the other to go back and do what the bad guys that were in there get kicked out for.
That's right. It takes time. And let me add a caveat to this. And Ron Paul said this. It's in my film Matrix of Evil, back in 2003. They're going to implode the economy by design to bring in their world government. And the same banks that have engineered this will then pose as the saviors. We're in a race that during the crisis period, we educate enough people beforehand and during the crisis to understand that the banks engineered this, which is in the Goldman Sachs emails, so that we can come in with our real constitutional solution. So the average yuppie isn't laughing and sucking their thumb as much as usual and acting cool and arrogant. They're now finally kind of listening. So you got to say, listen, I know you're slack-jawed and think you're cool and you think it's weak to care about America and be involved, but you better forget your basketball finals for a little while. You've been lied to. They are going to implode the economy further. We are in a depression. This is all a fraud. The New World Order's real. You better get up off your fat patoot. Now, they're still going to laugh at you publicly because they have a mental illness of weak people. They believe if they laugh at something, it gives them power over it. But once they're really hurting bad later, those seeds you planted in their brain are going to sprout. We'll be right back. The average American, fat, dumb, and happy, was taught that sitting on the bench, staying out of the fight is the way to go, that only caring about themselves was the way to go. Well, that brings enslavement and tyranny every time, and now we're here. If we can rouse people to defend themselves and at least get up off their hind ends, we can save this society. But this is life and death. Bob Chapman is our guest. Bob, going out to break, I made those comments, and I just made that comment. What's your take on it?
Well, everybody's got to do their part. I mean, this is the key to this whole thing. We're giving you this exposure on programs like this. We're giving you the tools. Alex says all these videos and DVDs, buy them, copy of them, whatever. And I know many of you are handing them out. We need lots more people. We've got to wake up the American public before November. So they'll understand that they got to get rid of these crooks and miscreants, and in the process, make them understand that the core of the power of the Illuminati in America and throughout the world is the Federal Reserve System and the Bank of England and other central banks. And if people can understand that, they'll know how they're getting robbed.
Well, look at who's calling all the shots. Look at who's behind everything. It's now out in the open, and they're saying world government run by them. There's no more time, folks. No more time. Oh, I heard it's kooky to talk about this. Read the newspaper. They're just doing this out in the open. Let's go to calls here. Let's talk to John in Canada, then James, Nikki, and others. You're on the air, John.
Yeah, hi, Alex. Yeah, great interview with David Paul Hammer. I learnt a lot from that. And Bob, I've read many of your articles. I have one question regarding something I've read is the MERS regards the mortgages in the United States. I'd just like to hear your opinion about that.
Well, the foreclosure ratio is going to continue to increase. We'll probably lose 7 million homeowners this year. It'll be just as bad the next 2 years. And it may go a little bit longer, and then we'll probably be on a bottom. Probably of the loans that are out there that haven't been foreclosed on, 60 to 70% are going under. I know that's a high figure, but I've been right before lots and lots of times. And that's where this thing's going to end up. And I wrote an article 7 years ago, and I said the federal government has allowed Fannie and Freddie to be bankrupt, which they were, and you saw what happened since then. Thereafter, the complete control, eventually, of the housing market, so they can tell people where to live and how to live. And
yeah, they're taking everything over. The smaller banks that aren't globalist, the car industries, the factories, manufacturing through the carbon taxes they're going ahead with, even
the home builders.
The home builders. They're now announcing that they're going to demolish at least a third of Detroit, 10,000 homes in the next month. I mean, this is incredible.
It certainly is. And remember, what this is corporatist fascism, the marriage of large transnational corporations, finance, banking, and government. It's the same thing that we saw, and you should go and read the real history of the late 1920s, 30s, and 40s in Germany and Italy, and you'll find out exactly what's going to happen here.
And it's not going to be pretty, and they're going to stage terror attacks to demonize the American people and claim that we're terrorists so nobody can protest and demonstrate so they can arrest whoever they want. It's all being publicly announced. It is unspeakably dark, so real that it doesn't even shake me to my core. It energizes me to just stand up against them, and we have no choice. They're not giving us quarter. For those who don't know what quarter is, sometimes they would have a duel. And it would just, with swords in Europe, 500 years ago. And they would say, in this fight, are we going to give quarter? Meaning, if I get you on the ground and have slashed you up, do we give quarter? Vice versa. And no quarter. No quarter given, no quarter taken. Well, gold's holding at all-time record highs. We'll talk briefly with Bob in the next segment about where he sees gold going. Bob Chapman is our guest of internationalforecaster.com. I'm Alex Jones. Coming up in about 15 minutes, we're going to be joined by Alan Keenan of We Are Change Ireland, who got into the Trilateral Commission meeting. This is incredible information. And they also, We Are Change and others, shot video. Neil Foster from the Sovereign Independent newspaper was one of those that confronted Rockefeller at his table, and We Are Change were the ones who caught him the night before the meeting with their president and caught his attention saying, "We're not your slaves." So powerful inside info coming up in about 15 minutes. Bob Chapman's with us for part of this segment, and this segment, part of the next. Right now, let's go back to your calls. Let's go ahead and talk to who's up next here, John? James in Texas. Go ahead, James.
Hey, guys. Bob, real quick, I wanted to ask you, I know this is not off the subject, but this immigration, this boycotting from cities to cities about Arizona, do you see this as a part of the financial plan to put the states against each other, or just a smokescreen so we can keep an eye on that while they steal our money?
About states against each other, but I do know people against each other. It can create confusion. 65% of Americans agree with what Arizona has done, and so that's been pretty strong backing from the general populace.
Yeah, some polls are 80%, but yeah, some others are 64, 66.
Well, it's obvious the government's not listening to the people, or you've got the city of Austin here doing the same thing. You know, I don't know if we should boycott California. They didn't have any money anyway.
No, California's collapsing like Mexico. And you've got the Ford Foundation, you know, pumping out all this racism to get everybody divided under the name of multiculturalism. I appreciate your call. Any other comments on that, Bob Chapman?